National Rifle Association.
No.
Enthusiast, gun enthusiast.
I was there.
All right, what happened?
It was at the New Hampshire Gun Owners Association.
Look,
and he went in there and made a gun
example
control.
is Richard Nixon in Moscow in 1957 when he defended democracy against these attacks by
the most famous is FDR when he went over before the Daughters of the American Revolution and got up and said, fellow immigrants. But incidentally, John, it was not Henry VI, it's Henry IV, Part 2.
Not so. Henry VI. Checked out.
And John.
Who said it? Who said it?
Was it Falstaff's friend?
Dick the Butcher said it. Wow. All right, now let's get on.
Jesuits here are really
Let's get on. There's another piece of political thing attached to this. What is it? Can you tell me?
Well, I'll tell you what.
Ed Meese was the one who started tort reform, and tort reform is basically a conservative doctrine. Here we have the Vice President, Dan Quayle, picking up and running with that ball, suggesting that in 1992, Quayle is going to take care of the conservative wing, leading the moderate ground to George Bush. Am I right or wrong?
No. Look, George Bush will take care of the conservative wing up through the convention, and then goes to fall to move to the Senate.
This could lead to something good. Instead of the Bush-Quayle administration in the campaign going after blacks on the quota issue and the civil rights movement, let's have them go after lawyers. I mean, it'd be much more popular. They could tell lawyer jokes the whole time, like what 10,000 lawyers saying to the bottom of the sea.
You have your tongue in your cheek, or are you serious about this?
Well, I think that legal reform actually would be a very good campaign.
You think the litigiousness is, in fact, paralyzing the United States?
Absolutely.
If anything, it was an understatement on Quayle's part. The unfortunate omission was he did not talk about contingency lawyering, and he should have, because that is one of the core elements of the corrosion that's now going on.
Let me say one other thing about this. These proposals, there are things to be said on both sides of these proposals. They're not as simple as they seem. Secondly, the fact is the chance of any of these proposals coming to reality are slim and none, because they have to be done largely by state legislatures, which are infused with lawyers.
Let's get out. Was Quayle's blast good policy, all good politics, or both?
Both.
What do you say?
This was the kind of moment that he needed. Great policy, great politics.
What do you say?
Great politics, sort of C on politics.
What do you say?
A+.
A+ on policy and politics. Right on, Mort baby. Let's go. Issue 3, BCCI. The sinister scandal unfolds. Clark Clifford, former Secretary of Defense and venerable Washington insider, and Robert Altman, his protege, resigned as chairman and president, respectively, of the Washington-based First American Bank, secretly owned by the scandalous BCCI, Bank of Credit and Commerce International, seized by regulators last month. Nicholas Katzenbach, former U.S. Attorney General and renowned troubleshooter, agreed to succeed Clifford. Also in the web of BCCI intrigue this week, reporter Daniel Casolaro was found dead in the bathtub of a Martinsburg, West Virginia hotel room last weekend. His wrist had been slashed 12 times with a razor blade. An unsigned note found near the body read, "I'm sorry, especially to my son." Casolaro's death was ruled a suicide, but friends and relatives think he was murdered. Autopsy results support suicide, but were inconclusive. Foul play has not yet been ruled out. Yet Casolaro was heavily in debt and despairing because of it. The 44-year-old journalist was working on a book about an alleged far-reaching network of clandestine operations that included BCCI, a mega conspiracy that he dubbed Octopus. Says Casolaro's brother, he did not envision them as a group like the Mafia, more as a network. They would overlap when their needs coincided. Using the octopus analogy, BCCI would be one arm of it. The October surprise, Danny said literally, was just another arm, unquote. Elliot Richardson, former Attorney General under Richard Nixon, has called for federal investigation into Casolaro's death. Question, how much validity is there to Casolaro's octopus theory? I ask you, Mort.
Well, it's probably more like a squid, John.
Meaning what?
Meaning I think that it's overdrawn. I mean, he couldn't much ink. There is no proof that all these things connect. There is, however, what Casolaro was going after was the Inslaw case. Now, what Inslaw is all about...
Here we go.
Just a minute. What Inslaw is all about is a huge database for tracking criminals originally. It has
and laundering of drug money.
It has great intelligence uses. There is some evidence that it made it out of the United States, and that certainty, and it may have been financed by BCCI to get out of the United States. Now, there may be a connection there. I think it's worth looking into. It's very difficult to slash your arms 8 times, 4 on one side, 8 on the other, and I don't believe that the guy killed himself. So I suggest that Bob Woodward stop investigating Dan Quayle and look into this.
Well, you have to be. I mean, we're never going to find out. Probably, we're not going to find out very easily. Then put it that way, whether this is a suicide or a killing. But it is very suspicious, the circumstances. It did not seem there didn't seem any reason for him to commit suicide. It was serious. There seemed to be every reason why somebody might be trying to do away with him. And this doesn't mean that the octopus theory is necessarily correct. It might mean that he is on top of other stories.
Wait a minute. If this guy was murdered, why isn't there a single shred of evidence of foul play, that he was manhandled? There are these marks on his arm which he could easily have done.
Well, how did that? Number one, they cleaned out the apartment thoroughly by professional cleaners because there were blood stains before the cops arrived.
No notes found.
Is that the reason?
I'll tell you what. Secondly, they found a half a bottle, or at least drinking cups of wine in the room, and he had no alcohol in his system by the coroner's report. There are some funny little aspects to this.
Why were there no signs of foul play on the body?
And the razor,
other than the razor,
other than the fact that the guy was dead.
You want to speak to this?
I don't know how, I think the guy committed suicide. I don't know how you murder a guy by sitting there and, what do? Hold his arm while you cut his wrist 8 times here and 4 times here? The guy would have been fighting like crazy.
What's your intuition on the Casalaro?
My intuition is the guy committed suicide. There is no octopus. There's a pretty big scandal with BCCI.
No octopus. What do you say?
Only wackos like the Christic Institute, Morton Jack, believe that.
So you think it's suicide. What do you think, John?
I think it's worth looking at. I don't know. My guess is it was not suicide.
What do you say?
My guess is that he was killed. My guess is that there is something to the Inslaw case. There is something separate to the BCCI case, and there's probably not an octopus.
Most are conspiratorialists. The answer is it was suicide. Issue 4, Death by the Book, Final Exit, is the title of a how-to book on suicide. It has skyrocketed to the top of the New York Times bestseller list of advice books. In 192 pages, author Derek Humphrey describes methods to kill oneself, chiefly overdoses of prescription painkillers and sleeping tablets, plus asphyxiation, preferably by a plastic bag. Humphrey says the book is meant for the terminally ill. Supporters hail it, saying that by making the book available to the masses, the right to die movement has gone from philosophical arguments to practical guidance. Critics say the death manual encourages suicide. It can be bought by anyone. For example, a vulnerable person who is depressed, but reversibly depressed, can buy it. Meanwhile, in Washington State, a ballot initiative would make it permissible for doctors, get this, to assist the terminally ill patients to take their own lives. How would you vote on such an initiative, and why?
I think it's a good idea. I think the reason this book is sold so well is that people do not trust the medical care system to allow them to exit without terrible pain, terrible agony, and all these life-prolonging measures, even if they made quite clear that they don't want those. And that's why this book is being a big seller. They want to find a way out.
The difficult, well, if you leave a living will and you give advance directives.
No, they are overriding living wills and advance directives all the time. Because all these smug, well-meaning, I know better than you people are intruding on their decisions.
John, is that so in your living will? It says it instructs the doctor to take heroic steps to keep you alive. Well, this does, the critics I think are correct, this does encourage people to commit suicide. It tells the book, the law, and with the proposed law in Washington, tells old people that it is perfectly acceptable if you get old and you're ill for you to kill yourself.
Well, it is. It is.
Look, I want to hear from Pat.
I think it's outrageous, John. I think doctors are supposed to be in the business of preserving life, not ending it. You're going to get a lot of depressed people going to go down and buy this book. This guy Humphrey sensationalizes this sort of thing. I mean, I think it's just outrageous.
I want to hear the big picture. I haven't heard it yet. What's the big picture?
People ought to be allowed to end their lives when they want to end their lives. But the problem is that people are going to start forcing old grandmothers and stuff like that.
Okay, you're getting close to the big picture. What's the big picture?
To society is if you're old, Why don't you get with it and get lost? You're not wanted.
No,
Hey,
it
that's
doesn't.
not
No,
the
it
message.
doesn't.
Governor Lamb, Ray DeVivas. But you have not yet given me the big picture. What is the big picture?
Tell us, John.
Euthanasia has now re-entered the high consciousness of the American people.
You're right.
This book is not sold because that people are forced to buy it. It's sold because they're interested in it.
Predictions, Pat.
With a giant bank merger in New York, one in the southeast and one on the west coast, I predict there'll be one in the center of the country. Maybe first Chicago will merge with some big bank out there, maybe Continental.
Wow. What do you say?
Nothing about that. There are two strong candidates to replace Richard Thornburg as Attorney General. One is Deputy Attorney General Bill Barr. The other, Judge Larry Silverman. My guess is Silverman will get it.
Yeah? Well, it's going to be Bob. What do you think, Jack?
I don't think it'll be either one of them. Doug Weiler, the governor of Virginia, has promised a decision next month on running for president. I still think he will decide against it.
You do? What do you think?
The issue of gays in the military, I think, has been logically solved after the election into the next administration. The policy will be changed, the ban on gays in the military.
Robert Mossbacher will go to head up the president's campaign for re-election, and his place will be taken as Secretary of Commerce by John McEnber of the Export-Import Bank. Bye-bye. The McLaughlin Group.
GE is proud to support the McLaughlin Group. GE, from aircraft engines to appliances, we bring good things to life.
For a transcript, send $5 to Federal News Service, 620 National Press Building, Washington, D.C., 20045. Specify program date. To obtain a free McLaughlin Group Viewer's Guide, write Viewer's Guide, Box 786, Madison Square Station, New York, New York, 10159. Topics are selected by Mr. McLaughlin, and the opinions expressed are solely those of the participants.